Hello and welcome back. I want to ask you this question. What are values to you? If you had to define the word value, what would it be? Personally, I think that a value is what you expect to get out of something, what you expect to get in return. So recently, there has been some talk about how tech companies lie to you, and we got two gentlemen right here, Mr. Who's the Boss and Marquez Brownlee, that came together to collaborate on this video. So I just wanted to say that despite your thoughts on these two individuals, they did make some pretty great points in here. So did this guy down here, Greg's Gadgets, who made a response video criticizing their critiques of Apple. Now, if you know me, I'm no Apple fan. However, he brings up a lot of points as to how Apple markets and advertises their products that these two guys thought was a bit shady and that he justifies. And it kind of got me thinking about how I've been getting some comments lately from you all about Framework and how you feel that they are not a good deal. Now, not all of you think that clearly, but I do see a fair chunk of you guys down below who still don't seem to understand it. If we look up the definition of value, it is the amount as of goods, service, or money considered to be fair and suitable equivalent for something else, a fair price or return. So I wanted to go ahead and just run down the pricing of these two different products, and we're going to go ahead and compare and contrast what they exactly offer you. So I wanted to go ahead and start with Framework. So let's assume that you're wanting to go and pick up a laptop 13 Pro. It's the new one. It's relevant. Let's configure now. Okay, so they say that the Intel Core Ultra Series 3 is starting at $1,200. Now that's before tax, obviously. So, and this is with the DIY edition that you're going to be building yourself. If you wanted them to build it for you, to where it shows up to your door ready to use, all the software pre-installed, that's going to be about a $300 upcharge. Now, I don't know about you, but if I have the choice to save $300 on the exact same stuff, I'm going with the cheaper option. And Framework doesn't exactly make it difficult to install or put together your laptop. It's all very self-explanatory, and it's very beginner-friendly for people who might be new to the idea of taking apart and configuring your hardware. So let's go ahead and choose our system. You got three options here. You've got the Ultra 5, the Ultra X7, and soon to be the Ultra X9. It seems to be that there is a significant jump in performance when you switch over to the Ultra X7. What justifies the $400 price point from $1,200 to $1,600? With the Ultra X7, you will be receiving Intel's Arc B300 series GPU as a part of their Panther Lake processors. So, just for the sake of not settling for the bare minimum, let's go ahead and choose the Ultra X7. What we're going to look at is memory. Now, the great thing about Framework is that you're allowed to bring your own RAM from outside of the store, but unfortunately, it seems that RAM prices are pretty expensive still. Plus, if we were to go ahead and look up this RAM module on Amazon, for example, just going with the most popular, it's currently unavailable. So let's go ahead and just search Amazon completely. Here we go. We got some manufactured by Lenovo here, and there are only 5 left in stock for about $240, 16 gigabytes, 7500 megahertz. It's just a tinge slower, basically the same speed from Framework, and the 16 gigabyte is the same price. Here, it really doesn't seem to be making a difference. Let's go ahead and say you're just going to get a 16 gigabyte computer. Now our price has already jumped up to $1,838 from the initial $1,200. Okay, well, let's look at storage. Framework is currently offering PCI 4 and PCI 5 compatible drives from their website, The Framework Laptop 13 Pro with the Intel Core Ultra Series 3 processor supports both PCIe Gen 4 and 5 SSDs. The Gen 4 supports 7300 megabytes maximum read throughput, while the SN7100 is a DRAMless SSD that uses Gen 4 for 7250 megabytes maximum read throughput. The Phison PS5031 is a Gen 5 SSD with much higher read speeds, up to 10,300 megabytes a second, coming with DRAMless design for better power efficiency. However, Gen 5 SSDs are still more powerful than consuming Gen 4. If you prioritize speed, choose Gen 5. If you prefer power efficiency, choose Gen 4. With that said, I feel like I want to go with a 1TB Gen 4. So for better efficiency, I'm probably going to go with this SN7100 DRAMless version. There we go, $180. Now I could save $28 by getting the less efficient one. I prefer my power efficiency personally. As far as an operating system goes, we could go with Windows and add another $140, but personally, I'm a Linux user. So I'm going to choose that. Besides, there's other ways to use Windows without paying for it. They don't exactly make you activate it off the gate, if you didn't know. So, sort of like how we're choosing the DIY build, we're going to go ahead and just bring our own operating system. Now we get to choose a bezel, and when you want a fancy color, it starts to get a little bit expensive. So I think I'm just going to choose black. The keyboard, choosing a different color, all these different colors, they can cost money. Personally, I wanted to go with the gray and black graphite keyboard, so we're going to choose that. Yeah, I really like how that looks. The power adapter costs an extra $60. I happen to have one, but assuming you don't, let's go ahead and just grab one. And as you can see, we've almost increased our price by $1,000. And that's not to include the fact that we got to leave a $100 deposit. Now, expansion cards. These are your ports on the side of your laptop. You do have to have USB-C to charge, so we're going to throw one of those in. USB-A I feel like is still relevant, so I'm going to go ahead and grab one of those. I do feel that HDMI is important, so we'll add that. And for a fourth one, I could get a second USB-C, so I think I will. But I also believe that maybe I want an SD card slot. I mean, this is a Pro model after all. Okay, 5 slots, and I can only use 4 of them at a time. Oh, and it looks here like you can choose your color. I'm gonna choose graphite to match the entire build, but you get all these different colors you can choose from at no extra cost. That's pretty cool. Went up in price a little bit again. And let's see what other add-ons. Do I want a laptop sleeve? Not really. Warranties. These come with a 1-year limited warranty. They're included in all laptop configurations, and they can be extended to 3 years for an additional $240. I don't personally go with warranty plans, so I'm going to skip out on that. Okay, there I go. To get a Framework Pro at 1 terabyte storage, 16 gigabytes of RAM, we're looking at about $2,100. Really, maybe $2,200, and that's before tax. Let's go ahead and check out Apple.com. People want to say that this is way more expensive than a MacBook Pro and that the MacBook Pro is a better value. So let's just go ahead and try it out. It seems we've got 3 different tiers of processors here, so I think I'm going to pick out the middle of the range as well, the MacBook M5 Pro. How do I buy one? There we go. The Framework had started out at $1,200 for their cheapest configuration. The cheapest configuration starting out here for the MacBook Pro is $1,700. So we're $500 cheaper going with Framework.
Now, that is excluding the fact that you won't be receiving any expansion ports or an SSD or RAM with that $1,200 price point. However, just something to note that if you are looking to buy, it can be as low as $1,200, given that you already have these parts in the first place.
But okay. Let's go ahead and choose our difference. Do we want the 14-inch or the 16-inch? Well, the difference right there is $1,000 for 2 inches. Seeing as this is the framework 13, let's just go ahead and pick up the closest in size over here, the 14-inch. We can go ahead and pick our color. Do we want it to be space black or silver? We're just going to go with space black because that's going to match the 13 Pro chassis. Now, do I want the standard display or the nano texture display? Well, we didn't really get an option when we were configuring our framework, even though they sell multiple different displays. But seeing as this is a matte finish, I want to try and get something close to and similar, but I'm also trying to compete in price, so let's just stick with the included standard display. Low reflective to reduce glare in your environment. Okay, that's great. What chip are we going to choose? Well, we could stick with the base M5 chip and start it out at $16.99, which we haven't even really budged in price yet. We could get the middle of the road chip or we could get the max chip. And personally, I think just to keep it fair, we're gonna select the middle of the road chip
just because we're going to be picking the middle of the road chip for framework.
Selected processing power. Included, we get a 15-core CPU and a 16-core GPU. Now with framework, the Intel X7 is, which is 4 performance cores, 8 efficient cores, and 4 low power efficient cores. Doesn't really seem to be much of an explanation for what the 4 plus 8 plus 4 is, but I know that regardless, you're getting the same amount of cores between the X7 and the X9. Apple's offering more than that out the gate, but this is an ARM architecture. We're just going to stick with the included for now, I suppose. So already we're right at about the same price, if not $100 over in the framework. Whatever. Let's check out our memory situation. With this price point, you get 24 gigabytes of memory as opposed to the 16 gigabytes, and this is unified memory, so it's split between your GPU and your entire system and your CPU. Can we edit this? Yes, we can, and the base is 24 gigabytes, which honestly is a solid choice. What would happen if we tried to upgrade the memory here? Well, there is no 24 gigabyte option, but if we were to up it to 32 gigabytes to try and give each other a bit more playing room, we are still at about the same price. 32 gigabytes. There is no 32 gigabyte option here. What happens if I choose 36? Well, I'm not allowed to have 36 gigabytes unless I get the max CPU. All of this is engineered by Apple, by the way. This isn't outsourced, so Apple has the capabilities of giving you more choice theoretically, but it seems that they would rather opt you into paying for a more expensive processor, which would jump you up an entire, wow, $1,300. Is that right? No, it's $1,400. Bad math on me.
And something I would like to note is that RAM and storage media in general is usually binary, so it increases in binary terms. That being 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. It keeps doubling itself. So when I see Apple offer options like 24 gigabytes or 36 gigabytes and not the standard that you usually get, I almost feel like you're getting gypped somewhere, but you know, personally, that's just me.
So I guess we'll just stick with 24 here, and we will go with your SSD storage. That's right, 1 terabyte. That's where I wanted to stay. Your power option, your power adapter, you don't get the choice to bring your own. You have to choose theirs, but Framework was giving us. Theirs was offering a 100 watt power adapter for $60. Meanwhile, Apple includes one that's 70 watts and a $20 upcharge for 96 watt hours. Not exact, but close enough. We'll go ahead and add that in. Keyboard, there's only one type. There's different languages, but there's only one style. So whatever. Now, Apple includes their Pro apps as part of this sale. You could purchase a license for say Final Cut Pro, but me myself, I won't be needing that because I already have a license for DaVinci Resolve, which also works under Linux on the framework. So no thank you. And I don't need Logic Pro either.
Apple does have a trade-in program.
However, I don't have an Apple product, so no trade-in. And here we are. The only difference here is that this has about 8 gigabytes more of RAM and its unified memory as opposed to my framework build. So for our pre-order bundle, it's going to cost us about $2,140 for the Framework 13 Pro, middle of the road. And for the Apple MacBook Pro with an M5 Pro chip, it's going to cost us about $2,220. It turns out that the framework is cheaper for a middle of the road comparison, but what do these benchmarks look like? And that extra $100 is only because you are doing a pre-order. So I imagine that once this is actively in stock, it will go down to a regular $2,040. So we're looking at a $180 difference in price. As far as cost goes, you're spending less on the framework. Now, what are you getting out of this? Well, the pros of getting a framework is that everything is completely modular. If you wanted to, you could go to the framework website and you could shop for some parts. And as you can see here, you've got all these different categories for parts that are compatible with your Framework 13. So let's just say that one of the keys go out on your keyboard. You can take a look through here and find all these different replacement parts. Just the standard keyboard itself is $40. Maybe it is that you're feeling a different taste. Maybe you want to get the colored one. Well, that one is $50. Maybe you want to replace the entire upper panel. Maybe you had some stickers on it and then you took them off, and
now you're dealing with some unfortunate tan lines from where your sticker used to be as compared to how the rest of your computer has aged.
The input cover to replace that is $190. All of these are a fraction of the cost of a new laptop. And you're not wasting all the other components here. You don't have to buy an entirely new system because one part failed. That's not something you can really say for the MacBook. However, for that extra $180, you admittedly are getting
more technical performance.
The Intel Core Ultra X7 358H does come in at about 65% of the power of the M5 Pro in single core performance and about basically half the performance of multi-core.
Now let me ask you this. How much freedom and liberation and ownership are you willing to trade for what is the difference in performance gains between these two chipsets? Is it really worth it to you? Is that much performance really worth it to you to give up your right to ownership and your right to freedom, your right to do whatever you want with your device, your right to claim it as anything you want it to be, other than what the seller tells you it should be?
When you buy a Mac, this is all you get. You don't get to replace any of the parts. If something goes wrong, you're basically getting an entirely new computer.
Apple claims to be a company that wants to help prevent pollution and create a more eco-friendly environment by lowering their carbon emissions and their carbon footprint. Yet, if one little thing goes wrong, the entire device is getting sent to a landfill because there's nothing that can be done about it. It's effectively a paperweight. However, with Framework, you're able to replace each individual part as need be, creating less e-waste in the process. If you mess up a keyboard, you only have to replace the keyboard. If you mess up your display, you only have to swap out your display. Personally, me, you really can't beat the value of owning what you spent your money on. With a Framework, I feel at least you're buying with intent and you get the freedom to load whatever you want on there. If you want to load Windows, great. If you want to load Linux, great. If you're able to find a way to build a Hackintosh with your Linux device, with your Framework, great. With a Mac, you're only loading macOS on there. You could run a virtual machine on your Mac,
but you're never really going to run anything truly bare metal because the entire system is locked down, and Apple ultimately has their thumb over what you can and cannot put on the device because they want you to have the experience that they have decided and tailored for you. Whereas Framework wants you to be able to make your laptop whatever you want it to be, and even opens up development for the consumer and third parties to create parts, mainboards, etc. That right there puts more value in this device than this fragile piece of glass. If you're curious about what it's like to use Linux in a framework, go ahead and leave me a comment down below and get subscribed, because we are going to be starting a new series soon where I walk you through setting up your own Linux computer, and I might even be starting up a series showing you what it's like owning a framework device. Working out the details on that latter one right now. There's tons more to see here on this channel, so keep an eye out, and thanks for watching.